I stood just off stage in the grand hall, feeling every heartbeat thunder in my chest. My daughter's wedding gown whispered silk against the floor, and I, almost forgetting what it felt like to be the center of attention, took a steadying breath. 1,000 scenarios had played through my mind over the past week, but one constant remained. My ex-husband absolutely must not appear today. When I first spotted him in the doorway of the main entrance, time seemed to catch its breath. He looked exactly as he had on the day we divorced. The same straight posture, neatly combed hair, cheekbones a shade too sharp. His eyes, however, held something I hadn't seen before. No accusation, no regret, but a raw tension that drew me in like gravity. I froze for a moment, certain the world had contracted to just the two of us. He wore a dark navy suit that fit him perfectly, a pale silk tie knotted in a precise Windsor. I remembered how he'd once draped that same tie over my shoulders on chilly evenings, how his laughter made the whole room feel warm. Now he strode down the center aisle, gaze fixed on me, yet he didn't pause to greet my mother or sister. The guests were already settling into their seats, friends, relatives from near and far, colleagues, all eagerly awaiting the ceremony. A light hush of anticipation filled the space. The organist began the quiet preludes of the wedding march, and my daughter, radiant, positioned herself under a cascading arch of white peonies and fuchsia roses. Her face glowed with pure joy. I wanted to take her hand and whisper, "Breathe, everything's perfect. I'm right here." But I sensed someone watching from behind. I glanced over my shoulder and saw him again, leaning against a marble column. In his hand was a folded sheet of paper, the kind you expect for a prepared speech. I realized then, he didn't come just to watch his daughter marry. The music shifted to a tender, lyrical melody. My father-in-law, now officiating, stepped forward to escort our daughter down the aisle. I cast my eyes downward, reminding myself not to tremble. I remembered the first time I held my newborn daughter, how my heart swelled with love. Now, my ex-husband was preparing to address us all, and I wasn't sure I could bear it. When our daughter arrived at the altar, a hush fell over the crowd. A guest dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. The final notes faded, replaced by the soft rustle of silk and the quiet echo of footsteps. At that exact moment, the ceremony coordinator's voice crackled through the microphone. "And now we have a surprise speaker. Please welcome a very special guest." My pulse spiked. He stepped into the spotlight, the hanging chandeliers casting soft halos on his shoulders. Guests leaned forward, breath held. I drew a shaky breath and recalled our years together. The first time I caught his hand in the rain, our late-night dinners by candlelight, whispered promises before dawn broke. He cleared his throat, hands gripping the paper. "I didn't plan to accept this invitation," he began, voice steady but low. But when I received the news that my daughter was taking this life-changing step, memories flooded back. His tone wove through the hall like a gentle breeze, stirring every memory I'd tucked away. I saw the faces of the guests, smiles of curiosity, surprise, respect. All eyes were on him. I struggled to remain still. Emotions pressed against me. Regret, nostalgia, something deeper I had long buried. He turned slightly, facing me for the first time since he'd walked in. "I won't cast a shadow over this beautiful day," he said, pausing. "But I must admit, I made a mistake when I let her mother slip away." My breath caught in my throat. In that instant, the barrier between past and present shattered. In my mind's eye flew memories. Our first kiss under a summer storm, laughter echoing across moonlit rooms, reckless dreams spoken into the dark. I closed my eyes, fighting tears. I couldn't cry now. I needed to be strong for my daughter's happiness. And yet, a hidden warmth bloomed in my chest. Though years had passed, though I'd built a life without him, I realized I still loved him. That forbidden spark, long smothered by hurt and pride, flickered back to life. He straightened the paper in his hand and took a quiet breath. But today, watching my daughter step into her future, I feel the weight of what I lost, and the love that never truly died. A collective intake of breath echoed through the room. My heart trembled between past and present, unsure whether to break or soar. As his words faded, I opened my eyes and met his gaze. Time stood still. Our shared history, our unspoken sorrow and lingering affection, all suspended in that delicate moment. A murmur rippled through the guests, as if they'd just awakened from a collective daydream. Warm candlelight danced across linen tablecloths, and I felt the soft brush of breeze from the open windows, yet inside me a tempest raged. My ex-husband's confession had struck a chord so deep that I cursed myself for pretending I'd moved on without regrets. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle in every corner of the hall. Our daughter's eyes glistened with tears of surprise and something like relief. She squeezed my hand, her small, sure grip reminding me why I was here, to celebrate her joy. I offered her a brave smile, though my heart thudded like an anxious bird. Clearing his throat, he continued in a voice steadier now. I know I walked away when I should have stayed. I thought I was protecting you, both of you, but in doing so, I lost the greatest gift in my life. He glanced toward our daughter, and her soft gasp told me she hadn't known the depth of his remorse. I remembered how, in our early years, he'd whispered promises in the dark, promises he never fulfilled. Yet here, under soft wedding spotlights, his words had the weight of water in my soul, flooding every dry corner of memory. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he said, turning back to me. All I wanted was to be honest on this day that changed us all. The simple truth in his tone sparked something in me, something long buried under layers of resentment. I glanced at his folded hands, once calloused from late-night work, now trembling slightly. I'd seen that tremor before, in his voice when he'd tried to tell me he loved me, and I'd brushed him off. He took a breath. I hope, wherever life takes you, you know that you were always my greatest happiness. His words carved a hollow in my chest. I remembered my own vow to be strong, to be the steadfast parent. Yet here I was, tears brimming, vision blurred. I swallowed hard to push them back, reminding myself that the focus was our daughter's wedding, not our shared ghosts. The guests broke into polite applause, small claps that sounded hesitant, as though unsure whether to celebrate or console. He nodded gratefully, then stepped away from the microphone. The coordinator moved toward the couple, inviting us to proceed with the ceremony. My ex-husband lingered a moment longer, fingers brushing the edge of the stage as if delaying his exit from this chapter. I watched him turn and glide down the aisle, every step measured. He paused at the back of the hall, offering me one last look, and "I'm sorry" carved in his gaze, before the double doors closed softly behind him. The click of the latch sounded eerily final. In the hush that followed, I realized I was shaking. I steadied myself against the velvet curtain, taking in a deep breath of jasmine-scented air. My daughter's bouquet of white ranunculus and blush roses sat in my hands, its petals soft and fleeting, like the moment we'd just shared. I stepped forward, handing the bouquet to her mother of the bride stand-in, and made my way down the aisle. Each footstep felt like reclaiming myself from the waves of memory. I glanced at my daughter, who reached for my hand. She squeezed it tightly, warmth seeping into my skin, grounding me in the present. Our ceremony resumed. Vows were exchanged, rings slid onto fingers, and tears of joy glistened on many cheeks. The world felt brighter, yet somehow different. In that difference was a lingering echo of his speech, his regret, his love laid bare. I wondered if the guests felt it too. A quiet shift in the air, a reminder that love, in all its forms, never truly dies. After the ceremony, we moved to the reception area, a river of white linens, sparkling glassware, and candlelight reflected like diamonds. Under a canopy of fairy lights intertwined with eucalyptus, laughter floated free. The first dance began, our daughter and her new husband swaying in perfect harmony. I watched them, my heart swelling with pride and relief. My mother slipped an arm around my shoulder. "He spoke beautifully," she whispered. "You must admit it was moving." I nodded, brushing away a stray tear. "Yes," I said softly, "it was." The band struck up a lively tune, and soon the floor filled with dancing couples. My siblings joined hand in hand, and we laughed as my niece twirled with her partner. Yet every so often, I caught a glimpse of an empty table at the far end, where he might have sat. A hollow ache reminded me that some spaces in life remain unfilled, even on the happiest of days. Later, under the glow of lanterns, I found myself alone by the grand fountain at the edge of the garden. The water shimmered like liquid glass. I clasped my hands behind my back, replaying his speech in my mind, the weight of his mistakes, the tenderness in his voice, his admission of love that once burned bright and then dimmed. A soft voice interrupted my reverie. He wasn't the only one speaking today. I turned to see my daughter standing there, eyes shining. She took my hand. "You taught me what love looks like, even when it's hard," she said. "Your strength is why I know what to fight for." Her words wrapped around me like a warm shawl. I realized that despite everything, I had given her a foundation of love, one that endures beyond regrets and second chances. In that moment, I knew I had forgiven him, not for his sake, but for mine and for hers. She squeezed my hand and slipped away to rejoin her new husband on the dance floor. I watched her go, feeling lighter than I had in years. Above, lanterns stirred in a gentle breeze, casting playful shadows on the marble steps. And as I stood there, embraced by the night's soft serenity, I understood. Love's echoes can surprise us, even when we think we've closed every door. Sometimes they return to remind us that every ending carries the promise of a new beginning. The next morning, sunlight filtered through gauzy curtains, painting soft lines across the bridal suite. I lingered by the full-length mirror, smoothing the creases in my dress from yesterday. The echoes of laughter and clinking glasses still hummed in my ears, but I felt an unfamiliar calm. My ex-husband's words drifted back to me in fragments. His apology, his confession, his love declared too late. I ran a hand over the delicate lace of my sleeve and wondered if my heart would ever settle from yesterday's storm. Below, the household was waking. My daughter had spent the night at her new home with her husband, leaving only a note and a leftover slice of cake for me. I smiled at the thought of her first morning as a married woman. Carefully, I poured myself a cup of coffee, black the way I'd always taken it, and carried the steaming mug to the balcony. The garden stretched out below, terraced flower beds of lavender and roses, a small fountain bubbling at the center. The scent of freshly cut grass mingled with the sweetness of blooming peonies. I cradled the mug in both hands and let the warmth seep into my palms. Memories of yesterday flickered through my mind like old film reels. The ceremony, the tears, the applause, even the hush when he'd spoken. I'd thought that chapter closed, but his speech had unlocked something hidden inside me. Part of me resented him for reopening old wounds. Another part was grateful for the chance to feel alive again. A soft knock came at the doorframe. It was my mother, carrying a tray with breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, and strawberries. "Good morning, brave one," she greeted, placing the tray on the small table. Her eyes were gentle, knowing. "You look lighter." I chuckled softly, feeling the truth in her observation. "I think I am," I said, settling into a wicker chair. His words, they hurt, but they also set something free. She nodded, lifting a strawberry to her lips. Sometimes the hardest truths are the ones that heal us. We sat in comfortable silence, sharing brunch and the morning breeze. I told her about the note from my daughter. She said she's never been happier, I added, voice soft. She loves him, and she's thankful for how you raised her. Mom reached out, squeezing my hand. You did wonderfully. You gave her love and guidance. Yesterday was about her, and you shone. Her praise made me blush, but I appreciated it. Then, before she could speak again, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my ex-husband. "Thank you for listening. I hope you're at peace today." I stared at the words, heart fluttering. I typed back simply, "I'm finding peace, thank you." I hesitated before hitting send. Part of me wanted to add more, perhaps a question or a statement of my own feelings, but I knew better. Yesterday was his moment. Today was mine. And right now, I prioritized my daughter's new life and the serenity of the morning. Later that day, I ventured into the garden with my journal and a pen. I found a bench beneath the old oak tree, its branches heavy with new leaves. I opened the journal to a blank page and began to write. First about the wedding, then about his speech, then about how both had changed me. I never imagined I would feel such a rush at 53. Love, it seems, has no expiration date. Yesterday, I watched the man I once loved speak his truth. And though it hurt, it reminded me that I am still capable of feeling everything I thought I had buried. My daughter's joy gave me purpose. His words gave me hope. Now, I look forward to finding my own next chapter, one filled with gratitude and perhaps, just perhaps, a willingness to let my heart beat to new rhythms. I paused, closing my eyes to listen to the breeze. Somewhere, birds chirped. A lawn sprinkler hissed softly in the distance. I felt grateful for this ordinary, peaceful moment. For the first time in years, I wasn't rushing through life. I was savoring it. I wrote again. To my future self, remember this feeling, this gentle swell of possibility. Whatever comes next, meet it with an open heart. You have loved fiercely, lost painfully, and stood tall through it all. Now, dare to be surprised. I shut the journal and tucked it into my bag. As I rose, I noticed movement near the rose bushes. My daughter's cat, an orange tabby named Marmalade, nuzzled against my leg. I bent to stroke its soft fur, smiling at its purr. "Good morning, Marmalade," I whispered. "This is as it should be." In the late afternoon, I visited the local cafe, my favorite quiet spot. I ordered a latte and sat by the window, watching rain clouds gather on the horizon. The barista, a friendly young man, recognized me from yesterday's celebrations. "You looked stunning at the wedding," he said, placing my cup on the table. "Thank you," I replied, tracing the frothy heart atop the latte. "It was a special day." He nodded, a knowing smile on his face. "Weddings have a way of stirring memories, don't they?" I chuckled. "They do." As I sipped my latte, I thought of the many weddings I'd attended. My own, my sister's, friends. Each one held its own magic, its own chance to reflect on love's journey. But yesterday's was different. It reminded me that love's echoes persist, no matter the years. I checked my watch. It was nearly time to pick up my daughter from her new home. I dropped a few bills on the table, waved goodbye to the barista, and stepped into the gentle drizzle. The air smelled of rain and asphalt, a scent that always felt like cleansing. At home, I retrieved my umbrella and made my way down the quiet street. My jacket still bore a faint scent of peonies. I realized I'd stored more than just memories yesterday. I'd stored new hope. And as the first raindrops fell, I smiled, ready to face whatever came next, heart open and unafraid. A week later, life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. My daughter and her husband were on their honeymoon, the house quiet in their absence. Mornings began with a slow cup of coffee on the porch. Evenings ended with soft music and a book in hand. Yet even in this peacefulness, I felt a subtle undercurrent of change beneath the surface of every moment, like a gentle tide reshaping the shoreline of my heart. On a bright Tuesday afternoon, I received an unexpected voicemail from my ex-husband. His voice, calm and deliberate, cut through the hum of cicadas in the background. "Hi, I hope you're well. I wanted to thank you again for listening that day. If you ever want to talk, truly talk, about anything, I'm here. No pressure, of course. Take care." I stared at the phone, thumb hovering over the playback button. My first instinct was to delete the message and move on, but something in me paused. He had reached out, not for himself, but to offer an open line of communication. The gesture felt tentative and sincere, two qualities I recognized from the man I once loved. Over the next hour, I wrestled with my emotions. Part of me feared opening a door I had slammed shut years ago. Another part craved the chance to share what I'd felt during and after his speech. I decided I would call him back. Not to rekindle our past, but to acknowledge the significance of our shared history and to close the final chapter with kindness. That evening after dinner, I dialed his number. My pulse quickened as it rang. "Hello, Carolyn," he answered softly. "Hi," I stammered, surprised by the warmth in his greeting. "I got your voicemail." "I'm glad," he replied. "I've been thinking about you." I exhaled, steadying my voice. "Me too. I wanted to thank you for your message. It meant more than you know." There was a pause before he spoke. "I'm relieved to hear that. I hoped you'd feel at peace." "I am," I said, surprised at how true it felt. "I wanted to tell you that I forgive you. Not because what happened doesn't hurt, but because I don't want to carry that burden any longer." His voice cracked slightly. "Thank you. That means everything to me." We spoke for nearly an hour. We shared small updates, how our daughter was settling into married life, how work was going, what books we were reading. The conversation flowed with gentle ease. There was no bitterness, only a quiet camaraderie born from years together. When we hung up, I felt as though a weight had lifted. The old wounds felt cleaner, scar tissue reinforced by mutual respect. I realized I no longer defined myself by the pain of our divorce. Instead, I could appreciate the good years we had shared and honor the mistakes that taught me to become stronger. The following weekend, my sister invited me on a spontaneous trip to the coast. She claimed I needed a change of scenery, and I agreed, eager to breathe salt air and witness the vast horizon. We packed our bags and drove 3 hours north to a small seaside town known for its colorful lighthouses and vintage boardwalk. We spent Saturday walking along pebble-strewn beaches, collecting smooth sea glass in our pockets. Late afternoon found us sipping chilled lemonade at a cafe overlooking the water, sharing stories and laughter under the bright sun. My sister nudged me as a young couple strolled past hand in hand. "Look at them," she said. "So carefree. Don't you think you deserve that happiness again?" I smiled, watching the couple disappear toward the dunes. Maybe someday. But the words felt less wistful and more like a promise. As evening fell, we arrived at a charming inn perched on a cliff. After dinner, we ventured outside to a rocky overlook, where waves crashed against jagged rocks below. The moon cast a silver path across the churning sea. I leaned against the railing, the wind tugging at my hair. My sister slipped her arm around my shoulders. "What are you thinking?" I closed my eyes, letting the night wash over me. "I'm thinking about all the chapters I've lived, and wondering what the next one holds." She squeezed my hand. "Whatever it is, it'll be worth reading." Returning home, I felt renewed. The open expanse of ocean reminded me that life's possibilities are as boundless as the sea. Old relationships, new beginnings, unseen adventures, they all lay on the horizon, waiting. The following Monday, I returned to my usual routine but carried a different attitude. At the local library, I signed up to teach a creative writing workshop for adults. I had loved writing in college, then set it aside for motherhood and work. Now, I wanted to reclaim that part of myself. On the first day of class, I stood before a group of strangers in a cozy library meeting room. My heart pounded as I introduced myself. "I'm Carolyn, a writer at heart who believes everyone has a story to tell." I watched their faces, curious, expectant. As I guided them through prompts and exercises, I felt an exhilarating joy spark inside me. The words came alive, dancing off the page, and I remembered why storytelling had always been my passion. Each week, I led the group through different techniques, character sketches, vivid settings, emotional arcs. My students surprised me with their creativity and courage. They reminded me that stories can heal and connect us in profound ways. One Friday, as we read aloud passages we'd written, a young woman in the back row shared a scene about lost love and second chances. When she finished, the room fell silent, and tears glistened in her eyes. I realized then that my own journey, my mistakes, my heartbreak, my renewal, had prepared me to guide others through their own storytelling. That evening, I returned home to find a package at my door. Inside was a beautifully bound notebook embossed with the words, "Rewrite your story." No sender's name, only a simple card for the next chapter. My brow furrowed in curiosity until I recognized his familiar handwriting. A small smile touched my lips. I placed the notebook on my desk and opened it to the first blank page. Carefully, I wrote, "Every ending is the start of something new, and I choose to write the rest of my days with courage, compassion, and an open heart." I closed the cover and slipped the notebook into my bag, ready for whatever chapters tomorrow might bring. Because now I knew, stories have power, hearts have resilience, and love, no matter how it arrives, can teach us to live more fully than we ever imagined. The following morning dawned clear and bright, sunlight streaming through lace curtains and dancing across the wooden floors of my study. I sat at my old oak desk, the Rewrite Your Story notebook open before me. My pen hovered for a moment. Then I began to write, not as an instruction for workshop attendees, but as a direct message to myself. I am more than my past. I am the sum of every sunrise I've witnessed and every tear I've shed. Today, I choose to embrace possibility. I looked up at the wall where family photos hung. The wedding portrait of my daughter, snapshots of my niece's graduation, a faded black and white of my parents on their wedding day. Each image captured a moment in time, but they didn't define me. I closed the notebook, its blank pages promising undiscovered adventures. After breakfast, I walked through the quiet neighborhood, inhaling the scent of blooming jasmine. Nearby, the community garden bustled with volunteers tending to rows of tomatoes and sunflowers. I thought about joining. After all, connecting with others always felt rewarding. But instead, I detoured toward the small antique bookstore at the corner of Willow Lane. Inside, musty leather-bound volumes lined the shelves from floor to ceiling. The owner, Mr. Green, greeted me with a nod. "Back so soon?" he asked, hands tucked into his apron. I couldn't resist, I smiled. "I'm looking for something inspiring." He led me to a dusty shelf in the back, where I found a worn leather journal etched with the phrase, "New Beginnings." I ran my fingers over the cover before gently opening it. The first pages were yellowed and blank, untouched. "This one called to me," I said. Mr. Green's eyes twinkled. "Sometimes the best stories are the ones we write ourselves." I purchased the journal and left, cradling it like a precious gift. Back home, I placed it next to the Rewrite Your Story notebook, two companions for my unfolding journey. Later that afternoon, I received a text from my daughter. "Mom, thank you for everything yesterday. Let's grab coffee tomorrow." My heart swelled at her thoughtfulness. I replied immediately, "I'd love that." That evening, I prepared dinner for myself, simple but comforting. Roasted vegetables with quinoa, followed by a slice of lemon cake. I lit a few candles, put on soft jazz, and ate in contented solitude. The house felt peaceful, filled with the gentle hum of possibility rather than emptiness. Just as I finished the last bite, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Josh, the son of our neighbor, the one who had helped me clean the garage those years ago. We'd remained friendly over the years, exchanging occasional hellos and smiles, but yesterday's wedding speech had forged a renewed connection between us. His text read, "Would you like to get dinner tomorrow evening? No pressure, just two friends catching up." I paused, considering, Dinner with him would mean revisiting memories from that humid Saturday in June when everything had changed. But I felt ready. I typed back, "I'd like that. Let's meet at our favorite bistro at 7 p.m. I felt a flutter of excitement at the thought of seeing him again. But this time, with open eyes and a healed heart. The next night, I arrived at the bistro dressed casually in jeans and a soft cream blouse, my hair loose around my shoulders. The restaurant's warm lights cast a golden glow over rustic wood tables and potted plants. I spotted Josh at a corner table, smiling as he rose to greet me. "Caroline," he said, pulling out my chair. His voice was warm, familiar. He wore a simple button-down and a relaxed smile, nothing like the nervy teenager I once knew. "How have you been?" he asked, settling in across from me. "Good," I replied. "Busy with the workshop and life. You?" "Busy too," he said. "Working on my degree, playing guitar in a local band on weekends." We ordered our meals, risotto for me, steak and veggies for him, and talked easily. Conversation flowed from mundane updates to deeper topics. The impact of yesterday's wedding, the journey of forgiveness, the lessons of growing older. At one point, Josh paused, gaze thoughtful. "Your ex-husband's speech. It was brave of him," he said. I nodded. It was, and it meant more than I expected. It forced me to confront feelings I thought I'd buried. He smiled gently. "Sometimes the past has a way of finding us, but it doesn't have to define our future." I looked at him, sensing the weight behind his words. He reached across the table, lightly touching my hand. "I'm proud of you," he said, "for what you've done, for your daughter, for yourself." A warmth blossomed in my chest. His presence felt like a steady anchor in my shifting world. Our conversation drifted into comfortable silences, where only the clink of cutlery and soft jazz from the speakers filled the space. After dinner, we stepped outside into the cool night air. The bistro's lights twinkled behind us as we walked toward the street. "Thank you for dinner," I said softly. "I really enjoyed tonight." "Me too," he replied, voice low. "Would you like to walk for a bit? There's a little park nearby." I agreed. We strolled side by side down cobblestone paths, past blooming rose bushes and smooth benches. Above us, the sky was a tapestry of stars. In the distance, the fountain in the park awakened with soft splashes of water. We sat on a bench facing it. Josh turned to me. "Caroline, He hesitated, collecting his thoughts. I felt my heart quicken. "I'm sorry for everything that happened before," he said. "Maybe I waited too long to reach out again." His sincerity bore through any remaining doubt. I placed my hand on his arm. "You don't need to apologize," I said. "Life is messy, but I'm grateful you walked back into mine." He smiled, and under the street lamp's glow, his eyes reflected relief. "Do you think we could try starting fresh?" he asked, voice hopeful. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves above us. My mind drifted to the notebook on my desk, to all the unwritten pages ahead. I took his hand and gave it a reassuring squeeze. "I'd like that," I whispered. He leaned in and kissed me, a soft, careful kiss that spoke of new beginnings. In that moment, I realized that life's unexpected twists had led me here, to a place between past regrets and future promises. As we pulled away, I rested my head on his shoulder, watching the fountain's lights dance on the water. The night stretched before us like a blank page, and for the first time in a long while, I knew I was ready to write the next chapter. One full of laughter, love, and perhaps the most beautiful surprises yet.